it is within her, her mandate. So I'm not going to choose who to respond. I'll not say, now Sempe will respond to this one. I'm not in charge of that team. I don't want to do guess. My engagement is with the accounting officer. Then the accounting officer chooses whoever. Yeah. Of course, at any one time, if I think there's something I want to pick, I can. Yeah. But I also want her to exercise her authority. I don't want to infringe, overstep my bounds. So, Mr. Procurement Head, what I heard you say is that, yes, these letters come from the executive as directives, and when they come, you know that the gold standard is opening it up. Okay, let everybody who wants to bid put in their bid, and then you'll evaluate and see who the most qualified person is, as far as cost is concerned, quality, all the issues, all the elements, all the boxes you must tick. But what I'm saying is when it's an executive directive, you then decide to go the direct way. You're dealing then with only one person. So you evaluate, do they have the competence? Do they have the experience? Are they able to do a good job? Do they also fall within our cost? And then if those boxes tick, you go with that person. What's concerning me is there are probably many other companies out there who are much better than this one that you have locked out. This person might be good. I'm not even saying they are bad, yeah? But they might be better in terms of cost. Because you might say, okay, this person is falling within our budget, but there might be somebody who can do a very good job at much less. That saves you money to deal with the other projects. You have not considered those other people. You've locked them out. You might have somebody who can even do a much better job in terms of quality. You have locked them out because you have a directive on your table. So what I'm asking is, what law says that once you have an instruction or a directive from the executive, then you can lock out everybody else and go with this person? I just want to be guided with the law. Yesterday I told you people, I am a lawyer, but there are many lawyers here who are senior to me on this side, even on this side. So I'm open to learning. So you can guide me on that law.
They don't explain the law. You cite the law and interpret. So when you give explanation, I think you're not answering the chairman as whatever. Let's just put that one on record. Is there a law or not? Then if it is there, you interpret. Don't explain. They don't explain the law. I'm talking as a law teacher or lecturer.
And for the record, Honorable Zwambi taught me law at law school very many years ago.
And Chair, additional
Honorable Ndomunye, is it related?
Yes,
Chair.
it is related, Chair.
Chair,
Of Uganda. And the executive authority of Uganda is vested in the president and shall be exercised in accordance with this constitution and the laws of Uganda.
The laws of
First, wait. When you go to subsection 4, subject to the provisions of this constitution, the functions conferred on the president by clause 1 of this article may be exercised by the president either directly or through officers and subordinate to the president. So what I'm trying to bring to your attention, Mr. Chairman, is that Unra has no, the hands are tied. When the president has directed.
Okay, let me actually stop you there, Honorable Ndomunye. Honorable Muwada, just hold on. Object to the provisions of that constitution. So what that means is, for example, no, I'm actually referring to the constitution you just read, because we must interpret it properly. The president, for example, cannot walk here and say, arrest this lady. So they will probably arrest the lady. But subject to the constitution, then this lady has to be tried, whatever the offense is, and that kind of thing, yeah? You get what I mean? Because ultimately, it is subject to the law, to the constitution. So he cannot say, me, I want her arrested, I don't have a reason, lock her up for 10 years. You get what I mean? So yes, he can order an arrest. You know, I mean, even as Cosase sometimes, with our very small powers, we say, you follow CID. But then, in following CID, we must be able then to have a good follow-up of, okay, so why are they following CID? What is CID going to investigate? You get what I mean? So a person cannot become the law. And let's not get into a law class, but I want to get a response
Chair,
from them. If according to them,
Chair, before the response.
they think that a directive becomes law, then they can tell us. I personally don't think that's the law that I studied in law school. I don't think so.
Chair, as a lawyer, thank you for your permission. As a lawyer, I find the submission of my colleagues as English, but not the law. The laws are very clear, and the article he cited is very elaborate. That's subject to the laws of Uganda, the procurement laws of this country, the PPD Act, with all the guidelines and regulations they are under, are very clear on procurement procedures. Actually, when you look at the public procurement and disposal of public assets guidelines, the only exception you can talk about direct procurement would be in emergency situation. And the procedure is very elaborate within the law. Very elaborate within the law. What are emergency situations? But there is no mention within the law, the statutory books, be it the Constitution or the PPD Act or any regulation they are under, that warrant any entity, be it Unra or any other entity, to transact following a directive of a president in total disregard of established laws and procedure. I beg Chair to disagree with the submission or from the witness, and also to substantiate the position of the law from what has been submitted by our honorable colleague. I beg to submit, Chair.
Okay, let me first listen the debate on this end and allow some of you. But anyway, if that's his way of looking at it, it's okay for him to respond that way, yeah? Because I also don't want to say, you must respond this way. You know, you can let us know your understanding of it, and we shall have it on record. Yeah, so we don't want to assume. We don't want me to assume. I don't want Honorable Ndiomujenyi to assume for you or anybody else. So let's hear from you, Director Procurement.
Yep.
You remember the questions that I asked?
Yes.
Yeah, when does a directive, from the president?
Is a fact. Yeah. But when we receive the presidential directives, we've also previously have received a copy of a cabinet extract, which clearly stated that public servants must implement presidential directives. That cabinet extract is available. We also further, after we've gone through all those steps that I elaborated earlier, which are basically aimed at trying to ensure that there is value for money, because at the end of the day, you have dispensed with competition, you have dispensed with equal opportunity in the procurement process by going direct. So we go for value for money. Once we've gone through all those processes, we subject this contract to the Attorney General for clearance and give the whole chronology. Yes. So with that background, that explains why we choose to implement the directives in that procedure. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, on procedure.
Thank you, Procurement Officer. You have tried your level best to elaborate something which I know is very difficult. Perhaps you're not kind enough to. These are the procedures, you do due diligence. So in the event that this company with a directive has fallen short of your expectation and has also fallen short of the requirements in the law, have you ever, in your capacity and your qualification as a procurement officer, said, no, we cannot go with this because of A, B, C, D, and you put it in writing and you send to the Yeah, I want to know. I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm curious. Because, I mean, you are the qualified person, and I'm sure the reason why you're holding that office is because you are. It's not fair. It's very fair. It's not. How? How is it unfair? It's a very fair question. We allow him to answer.
I want to, for starters, protect my vice chairperson from you people. You know, let's have him respond. Interestingly, Honorable Diomjenyu was earlier on saying, this is the law. He's now owning us, or owning them, and saying, you people joke a lot. Do you expect that man to say no?
But Chair.
So it's very telling. But let's have the head thereof, community.
And we went through that elaborate procedure. We failed to agree on the price, and we respectfully wrote back, the ED wrote back to the minister, who communicated it to His Excellency, that we had failed to reach an agreement with the firm. And His Excellency responded and told us to open up the tender. That information is available. So we have had examples whereby we have failed to implement a directive, and we get back to His Excellency.
So I think that's actually a plus. However, it is for that particular project, and the reason was because this person wanted to deplete your coffers, which are struggling already. So he said, no, on this one we are going to put our foot down, and that's a good thing. Yeah. But now, how about for the others, where okay, the cost is within reach, it's within the limits, but then you're saying, you know what, let's just go directly with this person. Do you think it would be risky for you to also say, you know what, let's engage and say we want to cover our backs? I don't know where the head legal is. Ultimately, the problem might not even be with the directive. It is with the implementer, in my view. If somebody takes you to court tomorrow and Titus is having to defend Unra, you're not going to tell court that this was a directive from the executive. Court will ask you to quote the law. You get what I mean? So maybe you people can share a challenge that you would want us to help you with as Parliament, not just as Cosase. I don't know if Titus wants to point us to something as far as the law is concerned, because if the procurement person is saying that an executive directive is law, I might forgive him. I don't know if he's a lawyer. I don't know what he qualified in.
On procedure, Chair.
I don't know what the legal person would say. Would that amount to a law that now this becomes a replacement of PPDA, so let's implement it? Where are the movable microphones?
On procedure, Chair, before
Honorable Muwada, first hold that procedure.
This is a matter of law.
I am saying hold on it.
I want to release the microphone.
Yes, please release the microphone to this side.
Thank you, Chair.
No. Honorable Muwada.
Come here. Honorable Chair, to the extent possible, we follow or comply with the law, even when we receive the presidential directives. As the Director of Procurement has rightly explained, most of those will be handled under direct procurement, and there are parameters set therein to ensure that there is value for money. Section 85 of the PPDA Act and the other regulations and sections in respect to that. Now, when
Councillor Titus, you're protected from your fellow lawyers on this end. They think we are in court, but please proceed.
Thank you. So once all the processes and clearance has been gotten from finance, as far as the financing requirements are concerned, the contract is taken to the Office of the Attorney General for clearance. He reviews it, again subject to the law, and then once it is cleared,
colleagues, can we first let these people respond? We are going to ask questions, yeah? But allow him to first explain, even when you don't agree with what he's saying, yeah? Because I'm also not saying I'm agreeing entirely with what he's saying, but I've given him chance to first explain his point of view, then we can ask questions.
Yes.
Please go ahead, Councillor Titus.
So, under Article 119, the Attorney General is required to advise on any contract government is entering into over the value of 200 million shillings. And so once he has advised and cleared the contract, that we can proceed to enter into a contract with that contractor, then we proceed. That is how, Honorable Chair, we have tried to comply with the presidential directives.
Let me take you just 2 steps backwards. You quoted Section 85 of the PPDA.
Yes.
Is that the one that talks about direct bidding?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to marry direct bidding to a directive that comes from State House. Does that section provide for directives as one of the reasons you can go for direct bidding?
That section provides that where the exceptional circumstances that would not permit for competition in bidding, then you go by way of direct bidding. Now,
what are those exceptional circumstances?
Now, although the presidential directive is an exceptional circumstance, it's not one of those listed under the PPDA Act. That's our dilemma, but the article cited by the learned honorable member earlier, Article 99, gives a fountain of honor with the power to direct. And with the circular that has been quoted by the Director of Procurement, public servants are required to oblige with the presidential directives. And where we've had difficulty, as the Director has explained to you, we have explained ourselves and written back, and of course gotten further guidance from the
Okay, you have moved quite okay in my view up until the point of dilemma, because I understand the dilemma, but then you moved back to Article 99 because as counsel who is senior to myself, surely, you know, fountain of honor, being fountain of honor does not mean that the rest of the law doesn't get to be followed, because it is subject to the law. Yeah, remember the example that I gave? He can order for the arrest of somebody, but then that person has to be tried, yeah? A directive that this person should be taken to Luzira or Chitalia is not enough. That go to Chitalia for 10 years. That person has to be taken to court, tried, yeah? Now that's subject to the laws. You get what I mean? But I understand your dilemma. How do we, because we must deal with the dilemma. Yeah? We must be able to deal with the dilemma. I want to give this issue just another 5 minutes and move to something else. Honorable Muzali, since you're the one who opened the Pandora's box, and Itungo, and then Honorable Mwada will tell us the law. But, oh, sorry. You know, since you did go to law school, I'd skipped
Discussing matters of law and procedure. Actually, the essence of enactment of the PPD Act was to fill in the gaps that were available by procuring entities directly dealing with bidders within their reach or interested service providers within their reach. And even before you go to the law, someone will question, where do those particular companies pass to reach the president so that he directs? That is already double standard and selective consideration. The PPD Act was supposed to bridge that gap so that it provides for competitive bidding, evaluation, and we even have value for money. Otherwise, that is a breeding ground for corruption. So whoever can access the president, a difference peddling, whoever can access the president will run to State House, say, I'm a mobilizer, I'm this, I need a contract, and you award a contract in the billions of money. This also brings in a question whether actually the staff recruited by Unra are actually competent staffs, or they are just passing through the window, whether you have papers or not. And Chair, through you, I would beg that we seek to establish the qualification of the other gentleman, I don't know his title within UNRWA, and also the legal officer, to ascertain whether actually they are competent. However, back to the law, the Constitution is very clear whatever powers as may be, it is the supreme law of the land, and it provides an elaborate procedure on how transactions are done. I want to be on record, the cabinet papers we are talking about are not matters of law. They can only be processed into law via established legal procedures. And an entity like Unra ought to follow procedures provided for within the PPD Act. Specifically, the section cited by the legal officer talks of exceptional circumstances, but again, when you look at the regulations and guidelines, the only circumstances we are seeing here, for example, for emergency situation, is to do with where direct procurement can be done, also provided for, and there's an elaborate procedure. I didn't even hear you quoting it. Now, Chair, through you, I want to vehemently disagree that there is no procedure, there is no law within there is no procedure within our laws that warrants Unra to make such direct procurement following presidential directives. They are not law, and this parliament has discussed it thoroughly. The courts of law have discussed it thoroughly. A directive can only be advisory, if any, but you must follow the due process of the law. When you quote the Attorney General, actually the Attorney General receives a contract when you have gone through the procurement process, among others. You are talking about the advice from the Attorney General and the contract. That is also a lie, and you are saying it knowingly to this committee, because by the time you forward your contract, you have already selected a particular provider, and you are agreeing on the terms, among others. But Chair, what I want to put on record is there is a confession that they do procurement without following the procurement laws, following presidential directives, and we also need to get copies of such directives if they are there, because there is also another version that some of the directives are actually forged. Away from the illegality being committed, there might be also another additional illegality, that even the purported orders or directives are not existing. We also need to cross-examine the copies of the directive he followed to award the contracts, so that we can appreciate whether actually they exist and in what terms were they written or delivered to Unra. But Chair, from the record and from the point of law, there is no procedure within our law that warrants Unra to follow presidential directive in total disregard of the PPD Act and other regulations made thereunder. I beg to submit.
Okay. Let me get a response from Unra, and we see how we close out this issue.
Chair, I beg to be guided because we have actually made our response. I think it was adequately made by the Director of Procurement and the Head of Litigation. And anything we say now will just be repeating ourselves.
Okay. You see, the law sometimes is problematic. The law sometimes is not even fair. The law sometimes is even complicated. But the law is the law. I don't want to be one of those who will encourage entities to sidestep the law, challenges notwithstanding. You remember the first issue we're dealing with, which was also a dilemma on your part, the diversion of funds without following the law. And we're saying there is the challenge of people that must be paid, of interest not accruing and so on. But we must operate within the law. This is kind of similar in my view, because the law is clear, the PPDA law. And we must be able to follow the law. So the excuse that some will give, you see, we are in Uganda, you know, that's how things operate, people's hands get tied. It is not a legal explanation, in my view. It can be a political explanation, but this is not a political setting, you know. Here we operate as far as the law is concerned, accountability issues and so on. It's not a political meeting. Yeah, so that's why the excuse that you see, this is Uganda, you know, people's hands are tied, what would we do? The law is the law. And for me, I want to be one of those who will task and encourage entities to follow the law, because the law is the law. Where there are challenges, then we are informed that, you see, there's a challenge here with this law, what can we do? Like the first issue, So a directive from the executive does not become law. It has to be subjected to the law. So a directive cannot come that lock out every other company, give the contract to this one. It is a breach of the law. And that's why the Director of Procurement rightly said, use the word dilemma. Because he knows there is a problem. And any lawyer would know there is a problem. It does not become law. That blue letter is not law. The Article 99 that we keep quoting, Fountain of Honor is subject to the provisions of the law. That's what the Constitution says. So we must try as much as possible to avoid the entanglements, because they catch up with us at the end of the day. I have heard, for example, some people have sued you because of the way biddings are handled. Is that so? Okay, I had a bit, but there you are. People will probably end up going to court, and then if the law has not been followed, your lawyer will not tell the judge, but you see, for us, we implemented a presidential directive, even though it was against the law. Who will win at the end of the day? It's obvious, the person that has taken you to court based on that. And then we have to pay fines, and then we end up losing a lot more money. So it's important that we must be able to follow the law. I am happy about the engagement to say, but you see, no, here, let's write back. We have been told to give this person a contract, but look at how much the person is charging us. We're going to have to look for more money than what we planned for, and then you engage. Somebody else would think, how do you write back to the president? You're being insubordinate, but no, you're saying, this is not right. And you're doing it respectfully to say, but you see, this person you're telling us to give a contract, there's a problem here. They want to charge us an arm and a leg. And I'm like, that is good. How about we also engage where we are cornered? You must give this person the job. You engage and say, but how do we cover our backs as far as the law is concerned? Because they'll throw you in the deep end and leave you there. Now we are engaging with you, not even with whoever, because our mandate is within this reach. So I think it's important that Unra adopts that too, of engaging and saying, okay, so you have given us a directive, but then there is the PPDA law. How do we cover our backs as Unra? Because the buck stops with you at the end of the day, that you must be able to follow the law, that you cannot give the excuse of, we had a presidential directive, and so we decided to throw the law out the window. Let me not dwell so much on that. We have picked out what we have. We shall be able to make our recommendations
Mr. Chairman.
for betterment, because
Mr. Chairman.
everything must be subjected to the law. Honorable Itunga, I want to close this particular
Just a
issue.
quick one, Mr. Chairman. Chairman, I think last week they gave a directive about closing of schools and education.
Chair, thank you. According to the Auditor General's report, there is Part C, which is talking about key audit matter. Yes, Part D. There was the one we have just handled was about basis for qualification opinion. Now, in the opinion of the auditor, there were other things, other areas which he called key audit matter. And the item number 1, which is 3, it's about implementation of the approved budget, the way we implemented it, the way Unra implemented it, and there's an issue of the strategic business plan not aligning to NDP 3. In the wisdom of Auditor General, they said this was an issue which they categorized as a key audit matter. The business plans for 2020-2021 not aligned to NDP 3. Not aligned. The business plan that aligned to NDP 3.
Chair, this is not it's a commendation actually. It's not a query.
It's not a query. Okay. Then, if so, we can clap for you. We clap for you. Then we go to 3.2, revenue performance. And according to Auditor General, there was underperformance. There was underperformance on the item of non-tax revenue. According to Auditor General, there was underperformance on item of non-tax revenue. Auditor General says the Ministry of Finance set a target of 10.7 billion and only 3.89 billion was collected. So in the analysis of the Auditor General, that was underperformance with a shortfall of 6.87 billion. Because the target was 10.7 billion, what was collected was 3.89, giving a shortfall of 6.87 billion. So we need an explanation for this underperformance, because the Auditor General raised it as one of the key audit matter. So can we get an explanation why there was underperformance when it comes to this revenue item called non-tax revenue from 10.7 targeted to 3.8 actual?
Chair, through ED, when we interfaced with the Auditor General, we informed the Auditor General that we don't have that target from Minister of Finance, and we indeed asked him to share if he has any evidence that that target is set up in our work plans that was appropriated by Parliament, and it is not there in the work plans appropriated by Parliament. So we didn't have that target. However, we did collect, and we continue to collect NTR, and that NTR, like I said earlier, is not banked with Unra. It is banked directly with Uganda Revenue Authority. Unra only gets a schedule of how much has been banked with URA. However, we have engaged the PSST following the audit recommendation and requested the PSST to give us the target. And effective the financial year 22-23, he gave us a target, and now we are budgeting for NTR accordingly. Thank you.
Chair, just seeking for explanation. This audit under review is 2020-2021. The explanation you are giving is for 2022-2023. That's what you are saying, that you have now asked PSST to give those targets. Remember, the next financial year to be reviewed will be 2021-2022, which ended 30th June of this year. So this was discovered for the financial year 2020-2021. The subsequent financial year is 2021-2022. What is the status? Because with the audit discover the same, where there's a collection without a target communicated, because you are saying a target you have communicated for that they give you a target for 2022-2023. What happened subsequent financial year?
Mr. Chair, also on a lighter note, so you are setting targets to get revenue out of commissions of crimes and defaults. So I know, but seriously, are we encouraging commission of crimes? Because personally, I would suggest that the lower it goes, it means you are performing better. But if you want now to recover, it's like now you keep your eyes closed, people default, people commit crimes so that you can have revenue. That's laughable.
Just Chair.
That actually is
Yesterday I asked a question regarding litigations, liquidated damages. And at the back of my mind, I wanted to know how many companies are failing to perform to the expectations of Unra. Now, in view of this concern here, just like my senior here has just said it, if we realize a lot of revenue, the collection we could be getting, I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Joyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. According to the Auditor General's report, he has highlighted that Unra underperformed in collection of non-tax revenue. Can the director, Unra, please educate me of how many sources of revenue do you collect fund from? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. There are not actually many. One of them is the sale of bids. The sale of bids, the fees from the sale of bids. 2, it is advertising costs. If somebody is going to put up a billboard, for example, in our road reserve. But majorly, it is from enforcement of axle load controls. So, because there are hefty fines if you damage our roads by overloading. Now, if we try and increase that amount, exactly what the honorable members were saying, if we try and increase the money that we collect from overloading, it will look like we're actually increasing overloading. We are encouraging it so that we can get more money. So the idea is to become more efficient in controlling weights, in which case you will see less money coming in as compliance increases. But those are the 3 main areas where we collect non-tax revenue. Okay.
Yes, Honorable Ndemjeng.
Chair, revenue from the way bridges. And sometimes also we have been informed that the way bridges, they don't work sometimes, either because of technical glitches and whatever. So I'd like to know, when the way bridges are not operating, how do you control the weight? Because I think there's at a time when one of Umbara was not working for like a year, and so we want to know, how do you then control the weight when those way bridges are not operating?
Thank you, Chair. We have the director who is responsible for this area, John Bosco Sejemba.
Thank you, Chair and the honourable members of Parliament, members of this committee. The story of way bridges that they are not working, that is a story of long ago. It is true that in the past,
about that for a long time, it's been known that there will be a lot of theft of material, by people doing any constructions. That's operational though, but because road networks are strategic, and also because we know that there's been lack of either awareness, communication, or sensitization of the public, that we have from what we grew up knowing, that the workers doing the road constructions connive with the local populace and have a lot of, stealing of the material. Of recent, we've been noticing that many of our colleagues in uniform military have been used around to keep the security doing construction. And that's really, it's a long thing the last thing to do at the end of the journey. I don't know what we do, how you manage, Madam Edie and colleagues, your colleagues. What's in plan? What have you put in place to avoid this, to mitigate and make sure this won't have UPDF keeping the sector? What we do about awareness, communication, and sensitization of the community that they don't buy their own material that will make their roads. Chair, I give an example of a road which I saw being constructed in Tungamo, Bara Road, where the community was sensitized and they didn't do any thefts, and it went so well, smoothly. Now, other roads, population, other areas don't really care. It is either a government or Muslim road or Unra road. You know, they don't own it. So what do you do about that, Madam Idi and colleagues there? Thank you, Chair.
Attendant disadvantages.
Chair, the Director Roads and Bridges will provide response.
There is a lot of safety. What we do when we give out a contract, the contractor is responsible for the security of his site, the camp, the materials, and everything. But because these contractors, most of them are foreign, we take responsibility of helping them. So what we do, before they come and start construction, or even mobilization, we meet the local leaders, basically the office of the RDC, where we meet the DSOs and all those security organs, and we introduce them, and we ask them to help them. They actually try to do by supplying them with security, but we have also found out that the same security are the ones stealing sometimes. So it's a complicated matter, but what we do, as you know, we have our client care team, who are always in the field sensitizing the people and engaging. Police and RDC's officers have tried to help by arresting some of the culprits. So it's a continuous process. Some areas, it is working very well. Some areas, it is very difficult, like in Central here and many town centers. Actually, when the project is within the urban center, there is a lot of stealing and it cannot be easily controlled. But we keep trying to make sure we help these contractors as they beef up with their security. They start with local security, they add police. They are going to military actually because military proves to be better than all these other agencies. But they are not enough also, and not everybody can afford to get military. So that's the situation. Thank you.
Okay, let's move. Okay, quickly, Honorable Mwada.
Chair, I look at the money spent on staff wages, the 93 billion. And when you look at the output, I'm seeing a mention of designing, then I'm seeing monitoring and capacity building. Now, are these the same? This money is paid to who? Is it paid to the same staff of Unra? First of all, they are paid the salary under the other 93 billion. Then they also come and benefit out of these billions, maybe as per diem. No, I'm asking Unra. Now, so Chair, I'm trying to bring this back. That I'm seeing monitoring and capacity building is almost on every project. Now, this one
Procedure,
is for,
Chair.
now it is this kind of.
Honorable Zan, let him finish, then we.
Yeah.
We are lost.
You check the audit report.
What are you talking about? I see project, the output, and so is that what you're looking at?
Yes. I'm looking at the project and output on page 6 and page 7 of the audit report. Because, and I started from page 5, and item 2 where there's a mention of the money paid on staff. I wanted to connect it to what I'm seeing here. I want a better understanding. A better understanding. Because when you say you are spending on monitoring and capacity building, then also on project design, I want to appreciate this is spent on a hired agency or it is spent on UNRWA staff? And then what kind of staff does UNRWA actually possess? Because for every project you have to do capacity building. This capacity building is done to the entity contracted or within UNRWA staff. No, I just want to appreciate. When you look at page 6 and page 7, the project, then output, approve the budget.
So in the document which you gave us as UNRWA, the responses, you omitted what he's talking about. I don't know whether for want of space or it's in the Auditor General's report.
But they can answer.
Mr. Chair.
No.
Okay, so let's get a response to that. So you've seen the bit, where it talks about, so there's design, there's monitoring, capacity building, and all of that. So maybe what he would want to understand, does Unra, recruit new people each time? Do you do new, capacity building for each project? Perhaps why not save resources by using the same people as much as possible? What are the mechanics? How does that work?
It's mixing up the staff costs together with project costs. And I'm not sure, because when it comes to project costs, it is still ahead, 3.3. Sorry, anyway, in the matrix we gave you 3.4, and we're going to come and explain that. When it talks about project costs there, we are talking about civil works and consultancy, supervision consultancy. So I'm not sure, I'm trying to understand, Honorable,
yes,
whether you are asking whether we are doing design ourselves and then also paying for it under outputs,
yes,
or whether we design projects at all, because then we have an answer.
Actually, I only refer to the wages just to bring the point across. But
okay.
the question is,
yes,
under every project, there's capacity building and monitoring.
Yes.
There's also project design. And I'm saying this money is spent on the same staff of Unra or spent on the on other consultants?
Okay, let's give you clarification then.
Chair, through ED, in budgeting we have the way the budget is coded. We have a project, and then we have what they call MTF, the medium-term framework expenditure. So it's under output 5101, monitoring and capacity building support. This is an area where we pay supervision of projects from. So every project has a line for project supervision. Project supervision may be done by UNA staff, and sometimes we hire firms to do the project supervision. Same MTF line also caters for capacity building, but it doesn't mean that every item catered for under the MTF line, UNA budgeted for it. No, here the auditor picked out the output area. But when you go into the line expenditure, you're going to find that some of these lines have zero money, but the line for supervision of project has a budget. Thank you.
So just for clarity, because on the Auditor General's report,
there are figures
under item 3, implementation of the approved budget.
Human rights across government, but I believe that the situation will improve. For now, we believe it's a temporary situation. We are in discussions with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that projects are adequately funded and finished in time. So I'm not too worried about that.
Are there some projects that have stalled?
Maybe they've slowed down. I don't think they've stalled. I think they've slowed down, especially in the first quarter. Some of the companies that we were going to pay, we have not paid, but we expect to pay them soon.
And on the issue of
They don't affect operations. I think the question that was being asked was a matter of the law. And as far as UNRWA is concerned, it is in compliance, because what we do, under the Constitution, the President has executive powers. We also have cabinet extract that says all public servants must implement presidential directives. And finally, they are cleared by the Attorney General. So that's the basis on which we process these presidential directives.
what are some of the roads?
These are still under procurement, so we have not concluded. But we will soon be starting on Jinja Mbulamuti, Kamuli Bukungu. We'll also be starting soon on Hoima Busunju rehabilitation. We will soon be starting on rehabilitation of Matuga Kapeka. So there are several of them
that will be starting soon. Others are still under the procurement process.
One of your sources of income is on the bid.
Because we don't advertise where it is a presidential directive, we invite. And because these are not too many, so that there isn't a lot of money to be expected from those directives. However, they also do provide bid security so that the projects, the bids are secured. They also provide performance security. Those are not monies collected by us, but they are insurances so that the projects, whether it is a bid or at bid stage or at performance stage, that that stage is covered.
Are there instances where maybe
it shouldn't be above 10%? Sometimes they've been hitting 100%, which is problematic. I'm glad that they did not waste our time. They admitted that mistake and them not following the law. So then we shall make a recommendation because they've accepted the charge. They've pleaded guilty, and so we move to something else. Today, the focus has been on, among other things, directives that come from State House. That now we have directed, give this contract to this company, and then they implement. Because you see, a directive from State House is not the law. We have PPDA laws in this country that must be followed. Open it up so that anybody that has the competence applies. And then at the end of the day, you get to determine, who is the most qualified and so on. But once you lock out everybody else and give this contract to one individual, how do we know he's the most qualified? How do we know there are no better people who can do the job at an even lower price, Because the way sometimes, somebody says, give this one a job, they end up giving contracts to their own companies, to their relatives, to their, I don't know what, yeah? So the law is the law. It must be followed to the letter. So, of course, in our recommendations, we'll make our recommendations because ultimately, when you don't follow the law, that means you're going to goof up on many other things, you're going to make many other blunders, and it works against the taxpayer at the end of the day.
Now, one of the aspects we have identified is the legal execution and implementation of what they call presidential directives. Of course, we haven't accessed a copy of any. We even suspect that some of the purported directives might be a forgery. But nevertheless, the laws, the procurement laws are very clear that you cannot do direct procurement, save for exceptional circumstances, which are, when you look at the guidelines after COVID, they are in emergency situations, and the procurement details are also elaborate. When these Unra officials came and they were narrating that many times they followed these directives, we find it irregular and untenable within the legal regime we have in this country. If any such directive may be advisory, otherwise, competitive bidding was to allow good and timely evaluation of would be qualified bidders and as well value for money. Otherwise, when you give direct procurement, that's why we are seeing many companies procured running away from job, and we are seeing a lot of losses registered by Unra, partly because of the nature of the contractors who are selected and who are got, especially through such direct bidding. It is not provided for within our laws, save for these exceptional circumstances. When you look at the guidelines which were issued after COVID for emergency situations, where you have provisions for emergency direct bidding and direct contracting, but still the circumstances are very exceptional. But now we are seeing Unra over the years have been engaging in direct bidding, purportedly under the presidential directives, which are not law. They are not binding, and they are not even binding on Unra. It's an error which must be rectified, and we also need to question whether actually these directives exist. Some of these stubborn and lucrative companies, they always find their way to State House and also forge of documents. Even some companies don't exist, but they purport to exist and get contracts. Otherwise, with such direct bidding, direct procurement, you are going to find non-existing companies, non-qualified companies getting jobs, and you are killing the job market. You are killing competition. You are killing because we are talking about investment in this country. So many people have started and procured the machinery to invest and also transact in roads. When you go for direct bidding, you are denying them a chance to showcase that they have capacity. And as well, also when you look at
Bannayuganda bwe tuba tubagamba okulonda obulungi balowooza tusaaga. Naye kino kye kitegeeza nti Pulezidenti alina obuyinza okukola kintu kyonna kyonna ky'ayagala. Pulezidenti y'alina obuyinza okuwa omulimu n'owobeera oli public servant. Y'alina obuyinza. Bano bonna bwe mulaba ba minisita, ba public servants, abali ba PS baani, those are delegated powers. Ne constitution mugende mugisome. Abatoolerako obutolerezi ku buyinza bwe. Kubanga tasobola kubeera buli wamu n'asalawo abagambe mugende mukole ki mugende mukole ebyo n'olwensonga eyo bw'akeera ku makya n'agamba nti kino kikolebwe ye bw'aba akimanyi omutwe gwe kyeguba gukoze eki kyeguba mukimugambye kati kiri eri mmwe be bawadde directive okuddayo okugamba president nti ekyo kyotugambye kikyamu. For example, president asobola kugamba nti enguudo za butabalika kumpi 45 zikolebwe wakati w'emyaka 2 n'emyaka 5 naye akimanyi nti ekisoboka ezo ssente Uganda teziina. Bajeti y'eggwanga ey'enguudo ya butabalika bulinganga 4 kati gwe n'ogamba nti mu myaka egijja 3 mukole enguudo za butabalika 45 oba ogenda bujjawa. Kati ekyo n'okuddayo n'ogamba president nedda bw'owa directive tukole nakawuka tukole hoyima tukole luno tukole luli ezo ssente tezigenda kubaawo n'olwensonga eyo directives zino tezijja kukola buvunaanyizibwa bwo. Ekyokubiri president osobola kukeera ku makya n'ogamba oluguudo ono lukolebwe enkya. Oluguudo si kulya mmere nti ofumba wali matooke olumala okufumba amatooke ne bagajjula. Nedda oluguudo kyekintu ekimala emyaka kumpi 2 n'ekitundu 3 nga balutegeka okumanya motoka meka eziyitako buzito ki obuyitako ani ne bakufuna consultant owa design najja egyo myezi 3 n'amala omwaka mulamba nga designinga luguudo n'amala odudesigninga olwo ne bagamba nti kati tukole ki kati oluguudo lwetaaga ssente bwe ziti kati awo ne bagamba kati tunoonye ssente we zigenda okuva tulukole. So oluguudo terutwala nkya leero nti enkya balukole. Presidential directives zitwala akabanga n'olwensonga eyo tasobola kudirectinga budirectings nti mukole wano mukole wali. Ekyokusatu president tasobola kuva ku manifesto gye yalayira banga yalayira n'agamba zino z'enguudo ze ngenda okukola eziri mu National Development Plan 3 era nagamba luno tugenda dukola na luno ate omuntu eggwanga limaze okupulaninga parliament emaze okuyisa enguudo ezigenda okukolebwa National Development Plan bagiyisizza ate kati gwe nga president n'ojja n'otutaataaganya. Ekyo kiba kikyamu. Oyina abamu amagezi alina omugamba kati sebo olina obuyinza naye wadde olina obuyinza olina bye walayira okukola mu myaka gino 5 manifesto yino National Development Plan yino parliament kino kyeyayisa era bino bye tulina okukola ki bye tulina okukola. So ekyo aba akikoze mu bukyamu wadde obuyinza akola ki abuyina bagamba obuyinza oba obuyina naye okubukozesa obubi kyekiki kyekizibu era we wali awo tumukwatira nti wano president obuyinza bwo wabukozesa bubi ate ani abumukozesa obubi mwe ababaka mwe abakozi ba gavumenti abazze wano mwe abatabulira president kiki kyalina kukola ki kyalina kukola n'olwensonga eyo mwe betutwale ruzira ne tuddako ye.